Hello, welcome to the second video in our Ask an Expert series. My name's Lindsay Blanton. I'm the Water Programs Manager here at Wissahickon Trails. And today's video is all about water quality and the Wissahickon Creek. We got lots of viewer questions about what is that green stuff in the creek? Is it moss? Is it seaweed? Is it bad for creek health? And is it bad for the fish? Most of what you're seeing in the creek is algae. That stuff that coats the rocks, making it a little slippery. Sometimes it looks like hair waving in the water. Sometimes it's just that really thin, slimy coat on rocks. There are some aquatic plants in the creek, but they're more few and far between. Most of that green stuff that you're seeing in the creek is algae. It looks different at all times of year. It can be really bright green. It can be a dense mat of green. It can look more brown at certain times of year. There are many different kinds of algae. And algae in and of itself is not bad for the stream ecosystem. It's part of the food chain, and it doesn't really mean that the water quality is poor. When there are big blooms of algae, it tells us something about the nutrients and the sunlight present in the creek, same as normal plants on land would respond to. When there's more sunlight and more nutrients in the water, we're going to see algal blooms. Algal blooms can be bad for water quality. They can influence how much dissolved oxygen is available in the creek for the fish. So generally, when our volunteers are out monitoring the creek from Lansdale all the way down to Philadelphia and on all our tributaries, we're asking them to look out for big algal blooms or big changes year to year in what they're seeing. Again, there's variation throughout the seasons, so that's not really anything to sound an alarm. But if you're walking a section of Green Ribbon Trail that you're on all the time and you feel like you see a really big, unusual amount of algae, let us know. Another question we got was, can I tell if the creek is healthy just by looking at it? That's a complicated question, and in a nutshell, I would say no. But there are many visual cues you can use to tell if a section of the stream is doing well or not doing so well. Have you ever walked along a stream section and seen really raw stream banks, like someone just ripped all the plants out, or a really vertical edge? That is a big sign of erosion. We have lots of erosion in the Wissahickon Creek, and that's caused by really powerful surges of water kind of washing away, eating away at the stream banks over time. This can cause an unstable bank where there's no vegetation and trees are falling in, which means that we're losing canopy and protection on our stream banks. Another thing you can look for is how much habitat is in the stream. And you want to think about, if you were a fish or a bug, where you would play hide and seek in the stream. So think about big rocks and cobbles that you would be able to hide under, maybe a tree fallen into the stream, which we would call a snag. That could, serve as habitat. Anything where you could hide would be something really beneficial, really good habitat for bugs and fish in the stream. If you see a section of stream where the bottom is really flat, there aren't a lot of big rocks, maybe there aren't any riffles, or that's the sections of water that look a little choppy, like the little white water that's coming over rocks. Those are all different habitats in the stream that are beneficial. So if we're lacking those, and it looks kind of just like a flat, steady section, there aren't a lot of places for fish and bugs to hide, to spawn, etc. Another visual cue you can look for is riparian buffer, or how much land there is on either side of the creek. Riparian buffer, we've seen, has been very correlated with positive stream health. The more land there is protecting both sides of the creek, the better the stream is. This is because it is buffering development, so people aren't mowing all the way up to the creek. It's providing canopy and shade to the creek, so it's lowering the temperature of the water and shading out all of that algae that we talked about. And it's filtering out pollutants and slowing down water when it rains. Another question we received was, is it safe to swim in the Wissahickon Creek? And the answer is no, we do not recommend swimming. The most we would recommend is wading into the creek, never submerging or swimming in the creek. The reason being, there are 4 wastewater treatment plants that flow into the Wissahickon Creek. So at any given time, without there being rainwater or lots of groundwater coming into the Wissahickon Creek, most of the water in the stream is from these wastewater treatment plants. The next reason being, every time it rains, all of the rainwater brings all kinds of polluted runoff to the stream. So it's bringing chemicals from our roads, fertilizer, trash, and pet waste to the creek, especially pet waste that's been on our trails that's right next to the creek. This can cause spikes in bacteria in the creek. So you never want to swim in the creek after a rain. This is why we recommend never putting down any kind of garden or lawn chemicals before you know it's going to rain, always picking up after your pets, and never pouring any chemicals down storm drains. Because all of this comes to our creeks, making them more dangerous for recreation and harming the water quality for the fish and animals that live in the creek. And lastly, we received a question about bubbles or foam in the creek. Are they natural? Are they detergents or soaps? Should I be concerned? And the answer depends on what the bubbles look like. So if you take a closer look, if the bubbles are large and kind of rainbowy like you would see from soap lather, that can be a sign that the soap is not natural, that it's some kind of detergent that has run off our suburban surfaces into the creek and is causing a lather. However, if the bubbles are very small in size, very densely packed together, and maybe have kind of a yellowy or brown hue, those are natural bubbles or foam, and that can be a result of natural processes in the creek that are breaking down leaves or other biological materials. And what that foam is actually made of are fats or lipids. So the things that break down, like leaves, they kind of disintegrate into the water, and when the water is bubbling over rocks and kind of frothing up, those fats or lipids kind of separate out and can cause little foam and sit on top of the water. So we see those oftentimes in the late fall or winter and spring when there are lots of things breaking down in the creek from that leaf litter. Thanks for joining us on this session of Ask an Expert. Hope you learned something new today, and be sure to join us next time and send in your questions. Bye.